Congresswoman Greene.
Thank you very much. And I think that's an incredible point that Congressman Gates just made. It's very important for the Republican voice to be heard today, because it's the Republican voice and the Republican voter and the Trump supporter that has been smeared constantly over this past year. I want you all to know that on January 6th, I was very upset with what happened that day, and it was because it completely interrupted the work that we had worked very hard on all throughout Christmas, preparing for January 6th to object on behalf of Americans that felt their votes had been stolen. And I think it's important to recognize that our own Federal Election Commission has an error rate by law that is 0.0008%. And it's important to point out that elections are very serious and they're taken that way by all Americans. Don't forget that Bernie Sanders felt that his election was stolen by Hillary Clinton. Don't forget that Hillary Clinton forgot that her election was stolen. And I'll tell you, being from Georgia, Stacey Abrams still thinks she won in 2018, and she's running again. But here's some things that we do need to discuss. You know, I'm one of those people, and I'm not shy to tell you, I don't trust our government. And that's another reason why I ran for Congress, is because I felt like it's our government that is screwing everything up for the American people. But after what we've seen on January 6th and the videos that Congressman Gates just walked through, I can tell you right now I don't trust our government even more. When I went through the D.C. jail, I'll tell you who I did not see. I did not see Ray Epps. I didn't see him in there wasting away for months on end, being denied his due process rights, being denied the ability to see his family, to get medical treatment, to get a haircut and shave. I didn't see him in there. You know who else I didn't see? I didn't see a man named John Sullivan, a man that has participated in Antifa, BLM riots and the whole entire movement, but then all of a sudden decided to be a Trump supporter on January 6th. The same guy that was in the Capitol and filmed Ashley Babbitt's murder and then sold his videos to media outlets. He's not in the D.C. jail under Deputy Warden Kathleen Landerkin. So I think we have a lot of questions to ask, and the people that should be answering the questions is our FBI and our Department of Justice. I want to point some things out to you all. With the U.S. Capitol riot, there is over 725 arrests that I know of, and only one case has been dropped. For BLM Antifa riots, there were over 16,240 arrests, and over 90% of those cases have been dropped. What's the difference there, everyone? I'll tell you. For the BLM Antifa riots and violence, the victims were the American people and communities and cities all across our country. But on January 6th, you know who the victim was? It was the Capitol and the members of Congress inside. My question is this: why is this Congress obsessed with itself and cares nothing about the American people? This is a two-tiered justice system that should never exist in our country, and I'm fed up with it, and so are Americans all over the country. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the FBI. They have quite a history of doing things. Remember, in Governor Whitmer's kidnapping plot, I can tell you that we know there were 12 FBI informants involved in that group, and we don't know how many federal agents were involved. Don't forget about the Bundy Ranch affair, where there were 15 FBI informants involved, and we don't know how many actual agents. But we can go back further. Another example would be in 1968 at the Democratic National Convention, where there were 10,000 protesters, and 1 out of 6 were federal undercover agents. You do the math, and that's approximately 1,600 federal agents at this protest in 1968 at the Democratic National Convention. Here at the Capitol security breach, we don't know how many federal informants, FBI agents of people in other agencies. We don't know those numbers because we have a January 6th committee that is unwilling and refusing to ask those serious questions. Now, what is our FBI doing? And why is the Department of Justice going along with it? And I think the question that really should be asked is an informant also involved in making the plans for these types of things and violence and a security breach at the Capitol? Are they just an informant sitting quietly in meetings and listening to plans? Or are they actually taking part in planning these things? I think we can see, and it's very obvious with the videos that we have just seen today, that Ray Epps definitely organized and told people to go in and incited people to do the breach of the Capitol, but yet he has not been charged. So there's a lot to be answered for. Now, we have Christopher Wray of the FBI and Merrick Garland of the Department of Justice, who we see are currently going after everyone involved, and they seem to think that this is the biggest investigation that they've ever needed to undertake in United States history. Well, you know what I think needs to be the biggest investigation that in United States history is what is going on at the FBI and what is happening in the Department of Justice. And the American people deserve those answers because it's the American people and the taxpayers that pay for all of it. Now, I don't want to have anything to do with a government that is going to be so obsessed with overturning regime change in our own country when it should be serving the American people, protecting their constitutional rights and individual freedoms. Now, that's not something that should divide people by political parties. I think that's something that should bring people together. So I think that going forward with the January 6th committee, when Republicans take back the House, as we all are upset about any type of violence and riots in this country, we should have a January 6th committee that looks for the truth instead of protecting its own and working on its own political goals. And when we talk about elections in our country, we need to make sure that they're safe and no one's vote gets stolen, and that ID is shown to vote, and that they don't use riots to achieve some sort of legislation. Because if Democrats cared about riots, they would have cared about the Antifa BLM riots all over the country in 2020. They would have worked hard and demanded that they stopped. But instead, they promoted them. And even Ilhan Omar, a member of Congress, and our sitting Vice President Kamala Harris posted bail bond links bailing out rioters so they could go back and do it again on the streets. Now, while Republicans are being attacked and the Democrats are attacking people and calling in with subpoenas, subpoenaing their phone records and banking records, I think it's very important to point out you haven't seen Republicans bailing out rioters, as very much matter-of-factly and sadly so. Hardly any Republicans have paid attention to the people that are being held months on end with no one caring about them, their families being left to defend themselves and pay for attorney bills, and they're wasting away in jail. I think due process is extremely important. I think that our pretrial rights are important for every single person that is charged with crimes in our country. And I think it is imperative, and it is your responsibility as members of the media to call attention to this, because it should never happen to anyone, and I don't care what their politics are.